What's going on, you guys? Welcome back to my channel. It is your girl Kai, and I am back today with another video. Now, today's video was supposed to be my part 2 on breaking down the police report, but the universe works in mysterious ways, because in the part 1, if you guys watch that, you notice how I referenced to 3 videos that I was going to link in the description box, which I still am, but the 3 videos that I was referencing to in the description box below was going to be what I was referencing my breakdowns to, off of, I mean. But what ended up happening is I had to break the video up into 2 because it was so long. And while I was editing the second portion of the video, I got a comment on one of my other videos from a YouTuber that is well known by now. His name is Gray Hughes, and on his in his comment, he basically was saying that, you know, he should have debunked my video because it's like so far-fetched. And you know, me and him had a really good conversation back and forth. I don't argue. I told y'all that in my very first video, second video, third video. I've told you guys, I don't argue with people. I am not here to argue my point. I am just here to give it. And if you don't agree with it, then that's fine. But what you have to understand about me is the reason I go with what I'm saying is not just because I'm taking this from somebody else. I am a very grounded person, and because of that, I am not biased to anything. I am not biased to any situation or theory in which could have taken place with this situation. The only thing about me is that I listen to everybody else, you know, thoughts and feelings and opinions, and I try to incorporate it with my thoughts and my feelings, even if it's the total opposite of the way I feel. So when we talked about it, he and I had a very good conversation. It was no arguing, there was no, you know, whatever. And he went into basically explaining that, you know, you have to understand that the glitching in the videos are going to occur because of, you know, it's just the technology behind it. And I let him know I'm not a big technology person. I'm not into all of that, you know. I literally just got a new phone and my first phone was like broke, literally screen cracked, can't see nothing, because I don't even really be on the phone like that. So I'm not a huge technology person, and this is another reason why my videos are very bland and plain. But you know, by him explaining that to me, I let him understand that, okay, this could be true because of the fact that I'm not a technical person. So maybe you understand technology better, but it doesn't sway me from my thoughts, because even though you can explain these glitches with technology, what I won't accept is the fact that it is just the technology that's causing the glitches, is because you cannot create a whole nother image of a person, a different person. For instance, okay, if it was glitching, you would have seen a trail of Keneeka's, as if, you know, she was moving faster than the, you know, the camera. She was moving faster than the gigabytes of the camera or whatever. Or, you know, she would have stopped and it'll look like she may have like stopped and did something, but it was glitching. But it won't create an image of a whole different person. I just don't want to believe that. If that is possible and if that's true, then, you know, prove that to me. Because just by you saying that, I need to see that. I need you to show me that that is what could possibly happen. So for me, seeing is believing. And before I am swayed to believe something other than what I believe, you must convince me. And I am not easily convinced nor easily swayed. So, you know, when we were talking about that, it was mighty ironic, because the videos that I was going to place in my description box to show you guys what I was referencing to with the breakdown was one of his videos, because he made a video of the sequence of the times of Keneeka Jenkins, and he put them together in the correct order so that we can understand the story behind what the hotel and the police were telling us happened with Keneeka, and what she did in order to end up in the freezer. So he put the time frames together, and by him doing that, honestly kind of contradict him saying that he feels that she walked into the freezer, because his video proves that it's impossible that Keneeka walked into the freezer by herself. That video alone proves that. Now, don't get me wrong, he could have possibly missed a time frame, or he could have possibly missed a time stamp, whatever the case may be. But from what I'm seeing, it is a consistent time from 3:25 to 3:32. Okay, so it's a consistent time frame from 3:25, from when she got off the elevator all the way up until Keneeka walked into the freezer. There's no skip time, there's no skip minutes, there's no footage saying, well, you know, she was in this area at a certain amount for a certain amount of time, but we don't have any footage of her in this area. None of that. It was a consistent time. Okay, so what a lot of people don't understand is that when a person is, for instance, Mr. Gray Hughes, when he debunks videos, a lot of people act off emotion. And so because they feel that he's attacking them, they want to attack back. But you have to understand that if you watch his videos of his debunking, he actually gives you the opportunity to open a debate. A healthy debate, which I told him I actually want to have a healthy debate with him, which is the purpose of why this is not going to be part 2. This is just going to be me basically telling you the duration of why I believe that the police are lying in the hotel, or the hotel is lying. But I told him I wanted to have a debate because of the fact that what he's telling me, what you're showing me, what I'm seeing from what you're actually creating contradicts what he's actually believing. And maybe he doesn't, maybe nobody has asked him the correct questions in order for him to kind of say, okay, I can see where you're going, because you act off of emotions you act off emotions rather than acting off, acting in a way in which is more helpful than negative, if that makes any sense. So for instance, he debunked a video about the guy that was putting the ice into the bucket, right? And I watched that video from the YouTuber who originally posted it. I watched that video and I was kind of in between, like saying, okay, that's a little bit much, or I didn't see what they were seeing. But it was possible because my thoughts may be far-fetched, but understand, I'm not oblivious to the fact that my thoughts, in which I'm saying what I believe possibly happened, are not like the most logical. Okay, they are far-fetched, and I 100% agree with people that saying, yeah, okay, that's just too much. I agree with you. But just because it's far-fetched does not make it impossible. And you have to understand that in order for you to get a point or a place in where you're trying to go with this whole justice for Keneeka. You can't, believe logic, but then believe that the hotel covered this up. Because logically thinking, you wouldn't think that a 5-star hotel would kill somebody and then cover it up. You just wouldn't think that. Or you wouldn't think that the 5-star hotel would allow somebody to kill someone in their hotel and then cover it up for them. You know what I'm saying? That's just logical thinking. So in this situation, you got to think outside of the box. You can't keep thinking in that robotic mind, that mind frame of a robot, of what they want you to think and how they want you to think. You have to step outside of that and become something else in order for you to understand the bigger picture. And I'm saying this because when he debunked that video about the ice machine, a lot of people got upset. And a lot of people were just basically trying to make it seem like he was a racist, or trying to make it seem like, he was just trying to attack YouTubers, and he was just the negative Nancy of the situation. But you could have combated that. You could have came back to him saying, well, let me ask you this. If you believe that this is only ice that he put in his bucket, and it's only ice in his bucket, and he filled the ice, there's nothing suspicious about it. Help me understand the logic behind that, because we all know that science would prove that if he put the ice in the bucket and it's over the realm and it's up in a high, you know, it's not nothing holding it in the place. When he leaned the bucket back, ice would have fell out of the box, out of the bucket. Ice would have fallen out. You would have seen ice chips, especially because of the toweling on the floor. Because it's bumpy, you would have seen ice fall off or out of that bucket, but you did not see that. So either it is ice inside of that bucket with something else inside of it, or it is actually something else other than ice that's inside of that bucket. Because again, the science will tell you with the gravity of the angle that he linked the bucket back, ice would have fallen. But a lot of people were more so thinking that more so acting out of emotions that they attacked, rather than just thinking about what he's saying and how you can make it make sense to him why you believe what you believe. But because he and I had this conversation, I chose to, instead of going deeper into breaking it down, I'm going to address this video to him, and I'm going to await a response. And he and I have agreed that we were going to do this, so please do not think that I'm here to attack him and he and I are about to go at it or anything like that. He knows that this is coming. So I'm going to address this video directly to his video of the time frames and the timestamps of what he said is correct. So when you watch the video, I'm going to have it in the description box. When you watch his video, you'll see that Keneeka Jenkins walks into the kitchen. Now, before I tell you this, let me break down what the story is that the police in the hotel are saying to Keneeka did in order to end up in the freezer. So what they're telling us she did was she got on the elevator and made a mistake and pushed LL instead of L. She ended up downstairs in the lower level of the hotel. Keneeka walked around that basement or that lower level and then walked herself into the kitchen, walked around to the back of the kitchen, and then she turned around, came back out of the kitchen, and then went into the hallway where we see her staggering and falling into that stairwell. And then after a while, she goes left, she goes right, she's going back and forth, and then she turns back around and goes back into the kitchen, and instead of, coming out of the kitchen, she goes through the back way of the lower level kitchen, up the stairs into the upper kitchen, and walks herself into the freezer. But I want you to understand why that doesn't make sense. And the video that Mr. Gray Hughes created proves that. First and foremost, it shows you have to ask yourself two questions behind this situation. Somebody is lying, because how is it that we capture, for one, we only have Keneeka walking into the kitchen, to the back, turning around, coming back out. If we captured her coming in the first time, then we should have captured her coming in a second time. So where is that second footage of her going back into the kitchen when she left out? There should have been a second footage showing her walk through, right? Because if what they're saying is to be correct, Keneeka walked into that lower level kitchen twice. So where is that video? Also, looking at the time of that video, it took Keneeka about a minute, maybe two, to get from where we seen her the first time in the camera and then to the back portion of that kitchen. It took her about a minute or two. Now, ask yourself this. If Keneeka Jenkins went back through the kitchen, went through the back way and up the stairwells in the back, through two doors, then ended up into the upper kitchen and then walked into the freezer, how did she do that in less than a minute? Keneeka Jenkins was last seen in the hallway at 3:31. Then what is said is that she walked into the kitchen after that, and then the next time they caught her on footage is at 3:32 in the upper kitchen. But how is that physically impossible? I'm sorry, how is that physically possible if we already see that it took her a good little minute to get through the first kitchen in the first place? Okay, it took her about a minute and a half or maybe two. So that in itself is going to tell you that by 3:32 she can't possibly be upstairs. And then When you watch the clip of when they're giving you, I believe this may be the police giving you the trailway of that back area where she walked through in order to get upstairs to the upper kitchen. But when you watch that, I'm gonna link it in the description box. When you watch that video, you'll see that it's not just 1, 2, 3 and you're upstairs. She has to go through an additional hallway, an additional like long little hallway that she has to go through. Then she has to walk up the stairs. So now she has to get up those stairs, and then there's going to be she walks down a little, just a little bit. It's not a big like gap between the stairs and the first door, but there is a gap. So by the time she reached the top of the stairs, she has to go to this door and then walk through there and then walk through another door to get into the upper kitchen. So how is it physically possible that you captured her in the upper kitchen at 3:32 if she was downstairs at 3:31 walking back into the lower level kitchen? Not to mention, where is the second video? You know what I'm saying? So there has to be some type of, somebody is lying, because in the police report it is telling you that Keneeka Jenkins never walked into the kitchen at 3:30. Read it and understand the wordplay that they use, because when they did not have an exact time, the police officer advised approximately. When the police officer advised that her sister gave him a time frame, he advised approximately. When he advised that the friends gave them a time frame, they advised approximately. When he advised that that lady and the general manager of the hotel gave them the time, he did not say approximately 3:30. He said she captured Keneeka at 3:30 a.m. in the lower level of the hotel, walking into an employee only area. And then she watched it all the way up until 6 in the morning and then never seen Keneeka come back out of the kitchen. So either she just lied or the police got it mixed up, because she obviously saw Keneeka come back out of the kitchen, because the footage shows that she came back out. So you capture her in the lower level of the hotel and you never seen her come back out when she walked into this employee area, rather than saying we captured her walking into the lower level and then she came back out of this area and then walked back into this kitchen and then never came back out, is what you should have said. Because by you not saying that, it makes it look as if somebody is lying. And that is a very vital point in the case. Also, what I want people to understand is, when everybody is like, why are we saying that? Why do we believe that the guy, the food and beverage manager, had anything to do with it? Well, you have to listen to what he says. For one, he said that the kitchen upstairs was out of use. This is what he said. The freezer was out of use, the one that Keneeka walked into. But then he later on said that it was being rented to a nearby restaurant, and that's why, you know what I'm saying, if the freezer was on. But then they also said that this kitchen was vacant, which means it should have been locked and nobody can get into this area. It should have been locked. Nobody can get into this area. So why are you renting a kitchen that the people can't come and get their food from? You know, like, that doesn't make any sense. But you can say, okay, maybe they locked it because of the fact that you know, they could go, when the people come to get their food, they could simply just unlock the door for them. But they say that they haven't captured any activity since August. Like August something, I don't remember the date, but it was like August something in that kitchen. So how are you renting this kitchen to somebody else? Are they not coming to get their food? Like, what's going on? You know, and then they said, and that was the contractors that were in the kitchen. So what I can't understand is where is this story going? Like, how do you connect the dots to that? That don't make sense. And then also, you have to listen to you have to understand what you're watching and correlate it to what he's saying, because when the people started to say, you know, he walked into the kitchen. That's so obvious. He walked right into the kitchen and walked right to the freezer. We're watching that. That's so obvious, you know. But now you got to correlate that to what he said and make it make sense. So he said that he had thought that the officer was behind him when he originally first walked into the kitchen to go into the freezer. He said that he thought that the officer was behind him. So that goes to tell you that he was in the vicinity of the officers, and he was not in the lobby where the general manager was reviewing the tapes, where she was reviewing the videotapes. Why do I say this? Is because the police indicated that once they had the fire department came up there, they split up. All the police split up, and they started on their search in this hotel for Keneeka. And 3 of the officers went on the loading dock, and the other 4 went down to the basement, or vice versa. So now you're telling me that there's 7 people total right now that are, you know, in the law enforcement that have taken different routes at this point in the hotel. So nobody is in the lobby at this point, which is why she notified the police officer while he was in the basement, and not a police officer that was in the lobby, because they were not in the lobby. So that goes to tell you that this man must have the only way he could have assumed that the officer was behind him when he first walked in the kitchen is if he was in the vicinity of the officers. So if you weren't watching the tapes, ask yourself why and how did you know to go to that specific freezer, because we have the footage that now proves that there are a line of freezers in that kitchen leading up to the kitchen. I'm sorry, leading up to the freezer that Keneeka was in. So if there's more than one freezer in this kitchen, why did you walk directly in and go to that one? You get what I'm saying? Why did you walk directly in and go to that specific freezer if there's a trail of freezers in the same vicinity? So there is a freezer, like for instance, when he walked past, where he walked past, there's a freezer. There was a freezer to his right. There was a freezer where he walked past to his right, and we didn't capture him going over there. He just came in and went straight across to where Keneeka was. So help me understand, how did you know that she was in his freezer? And what made you believe that the officer was behind you if you had been watching the footage and you captured her walking into this freezer? You get what I'm saying? They never originally said that they captured her upstairs in the freezer until the guy found her body. And then that's when the footage, you know, I guess apparently they watched the footage to see or whatever. But this is what makes me believe the suspicious and foul play involved in the death of Keneeka Jenkins, is because these people, their stories don't make any sense and they don't correlate with what we're seeing and what they're saying. You know, everything should line up. 1 + 1 = 2. You know, you cannot get 2 out of 1 minus, you know, 1 minus 1. You won't get 2. So if something is missing, then we will never get, then there's, you know what I'm saying, we won't understand what's going on. And there's a lot missing from this. Also, you want to understand that, listen to how they tried to make it seem as if this man was horrified. Like he was horrified. He went out and said, oh, it scared the shit out of me. This is in the police report. He said that he went out and was like, it scared the shit out of me. Officer Wash realized that he was talking, but he couldn't understand what he was saying, and so he waved Officer Wash over to him. Officer Wash comes over to him, and he said, you know, it scared the hell out of me, or something like that. And he went and said something about, is there somebody in the kitchen? Why would you assume that he's talking about him finding somebody in the kitchen? You understand what I'm saying? How did you know that he was going to that kitchen to look? These are the questions that I have, because it has to make sense, and that doesn't. What made him question him about the kitchen? If and this is not the lower kitchen, this is the upper kitchen. So what made him question him about the upper kitchen in specific when there's multiple areas that he could have looked and found a body? So that don't make no sense. But also he indicated that he was so scared, and officer then followed him in, and the manager stopped at a point and just pointed Officer Wash to the freezer where Keneeka's body was, and Officer Wash walked back there himself and, you know, walked into there and found her body. But that's not true, because we watched the footage and we see that yes, he did stop at a point and then point his way back to, you know, point to the freezer that he was indicating, or the area in which he was indicating. But we also see him not only taking the lead to that freezer, but being the first person to get back there for the second time. So that tells me that you couldn't possibly have been that afraid, because if that scared you, you're not gonna go back for a second look. You're not gonna want to. You already saw what you needed to see, and you ain't going back for no second look. But he did. So it's like, what like that don't make sense to me. So when I say that I don't believe that Teresa Martin has anything to do with it, or when I say that Keneeka Jenkins was murdered, there's so many points that I can make that backs up what I'm saying, and that therefore there's nothing that anybody can tell me without physical proof that will sway me. I will debate you to the end of our days if I don't have physical proof that I am wrong. I'm going to stay content with the theory in which Keneeka Jenkins was murdered. Now, all of the rest of the stuff, how and all of that, okay, that I could be swayed. I could be swayed to believe different things in that aspect, but you're not gonna sway me to believe that the girl was not murdered. Now, you're not going to make me believe that. So, I just want you, Mr. Hughes, to answer those questions for me. Where's the second video in the footage of her walking back through that kitchen? Because it should have correlated with the time that you had. It would have correlated with the timestamps in which you put together. And also, how do you think she made it up to the kitchen in less than 1 minute? How do you feel that she went from the lower level all the way upstairs to the upper kitchen in 1 minute, seeing that how drunk she was and seeing how unaware of her surroundings she was? In order for her to have even possibly did that in 1 minute, she would have had to know exactly where she was trying to get, but she didn't. So, you know, these are my questions to you, and with these questions that I'm asking you, do you still believe that she walked into the freezer by herself, or now are you kind of sort of like, okay, there's a possibility that there's something missing here? I'm not asking you to believe what I'm saying. I'm just asking for you to help me understand why I shouldn't believe what I'm saying, and that's just the bottom line. But thank you so much, you guys, for watching my video. The description box will have all of the videos that I referenced to as promised, and yeah, I will see you guys all in my next video. Bye.